Hi folks, my name is Abhinav Prakash. I'm a financial consultant by profession and also an avid coder on the side. I never thought that I'd actually be creating a video on anything, but personally I think blockchain is that groundbreaking, and I'm also very passionate about it that I thought of doing a video, or probably a video series on it if you like it. Now there definitely are several resources available on internet in general and YouTube in particular that can be referred to for getting to know more about blockchain. But I felt, and this is something which is debatable, that most of these content are heavy on the Bitcoin or the Ethereum trading side of the things rather than an in-depth of how it works in the background. Before starting, I'll try and draw some parallels from the existing technology which we have come to use and which we have come to rely upon for most of our activities. The internet, we rely on internet for buying and selling, for communication, for marketing, any kind of financial transaction, and several more activities. We have been awash with internet actually, and internet related activities, internet enabled activities, and I'm sure that almost everybody has benefited out of it. Though if we just look a few decades back, the scene was not at all rosy. Though there had been small scale trials of connecting computers together back then so as to make them interact, nothing was major, nothing was large scale, until access to ARPANET was expanded, in 1980s. ARPANET is basically the initial internet which was started by US Defense. So from 96 onwards, internet started to gain real momentum. To bring that into perspective, in January 1996, there were around 100,000 websites globally compared to around 200 million now. The point is that internet was a new technology back then, and obviously it had to go along the curve of technology adoption, where initially early adopters accept it, but it is still looked upon with suspicion by masses. This gradually leads into a period where there is a mass adoption along with improvement in technology itself, which basically leads to the lateral expansion of the usage of technology. Frankly, blockchain is right now at the phase where more and more people are getting to know about it and are thinking of experimenting with it. Though, of course, the technology is not yet stable and mature, and obviously, as it goes along, new and novel application of blockchain would be thought of and implemented successfully as well by most. The point is, it is good to be cynical about any new technology. News articles and blogs across the globe, they are pervaded with bits on blockchain, as most people might have noticed. And mainstream media, banks, and mainstream enterprises, technology companies, they have also been increasingly vocal about its immense importance and its potential impact on the future. However, against the din of the blockchain and its direct descendant application or implication, that is Bitcoin, the main question is, what is blockchain? How does blockchain work? And what can blockchain be used for? For me, these are the most important questions which I like to ask about anything new before jumping on to conclusion about it. And I guess this is a good thing to do. Anyway, now that we kind of have asked the important questions, on how to get to know about blockchain better, I'll try and drive you through the nuts and bolts of this potential tool in the trade. We'll start from what blockchain is, and through this video series, cover most ground. In case there is some coding involved, which of course there will definitely be in later videos, and a lot of coding actually, I'll try and have it live. I'll try and have it with you on the screen itself. Let's get started then. Let's say we have two people. We have Alice and Bob. Now, people who have been following Bitcoin already would, might be familiar with these folks for sure. So, Alice needs a mobile phone, which she orders from Bob's shop, right? The phone is worth $100, and as soon as Bob delivers the phone to Alice's door, Alice hands over a $100 bill to Bob and then goes on to use her mobile. Now, cash exchange hands, and both Alice and Bob, they know what, that it happened. Now, in case Bob comes back, asks for $100 again from Alice, Alice will not have any evidence to show. Of course, she can show the phone, but ultimately there needs to be some paperwork, as we all are aware, for this transaction, so that it is set in stone, or set in paper rather. Okay, so that it serves as an evidence that this transaction had happened. There comes the bill or the receipt to serve as evidence here. All right, now let's just look at the financial side of the transaction. If Bob and Alice would keep doing such kind of transaction for various goods and services, they would have to maintain a journal of some sorts to keep abreast with the amount of money they have received and the amount of money which they have spent, right? There comes the ledger. Ledger is basically a bookkeeping system to keep track of your transaction, your financial transaction. And the most widely accepted form of of this ledger entry is double entry. Now you might ask what double entry is, and I'm really glad that you asked. So double entry is where we maintain both additions to and subtractions from accounts. Meaning, when Bob delivers a mobile phone to Alice and gets cash, he will add $100 cash to his cash account and will subtract $100 worth of mobile phone inventory from his inventory account. Additions are credit, removal is debit. In order to serve as a proof of transaction, Bob will maintain ledger, where for cash he will add a credit entry, and Alice, similarly, will add a debit entry in her cash account ledger. Great. The transaction is done, everyone is happy, and in the end we know, they know if the other person claims of being cheated, the first one basically, they can show the ledger as evidence. Whoever cheats, the other person can show the evidence, show the ledger. But, Alice and Bob, they don't trust each other at all with regards to maintaining the ledger honestly. So what do? They ask somebody else, to take care of it for them, right? So they ask, this guy in the black suit to manage the ledger honestly for them. Now, apparently, this guy, let's call him a third party or some intermediary, is someone both can trust, even though they don't trust each other. And as days changed into months and months into years, the guy in the black suit was still honest, and other people also started trusting him with regards to maintaining ledgers for them. Now, this guy obviously had to charge people some fees to give this kind of service, and people were agreed, as it made sense that he was doing a great job after all. So, this guy in black suit, he hired several people to manage his business, and I started calling him the bank. These banks maintain ledger for people. All the financial transaction that happens through your account is maintained as ledger entries in your bank. For example, your salary is credited into your account, and your grocery expenses, they are debited against your accounts. The job of maintaining such ledgers for so many people in a nation, it rests with several banks, and each of these banks also serve other functions. Ultimately, though, all of the ledgers which these banks maintain with the people roll up to a central ledger, which is maintained by the big daddy of these banks, that is, the central bank. Before the advent of electronic means of data storage, all banks used to maintain physical ledgers, which now have been mostly replaced by electronic database storage. At a very fundamental level, if we talk about it, the salary which you earn every month is just a data entry in one of the rows under your account in this huge database somewhere. Obviously, as banks need to be approachable to people who have accounts with them, there needs to be a chain of branches, bank branches, to deal with all kinds of customers. And a certain branch of your bank, let's say Goldman Sachs 200 West Street branch, which you have an account with, will maintain a ledger of transaction for your account within its database. This ledger will roll up to the main ledger being maintained by Goldman Sachs overall, and all such main ledgers from all of these banks, they will roll up to the central ledger, which will be maintained by the central bank, Federal Reserve in case of US, Reserve Bank of India in case of India. Perfect. Let's talk a little bit about the other side of the currency notes. Generally, and this is valid for most nations, central bank is responsible for printing money and having it in circulation. There is a very special thing in most of the currency notes which I wanted to highlight, and that is a promise. The central bank declares a promise that the currency note shall serve as a basis of all financial transaction within a country. Alice and Bob, when they are using this crisp $100 bill, comes with a promise by the central bank, and that is why it is being accepted by both Alice and Bob as a common ground for exchange of value. Bob trusts this promise by the central bank, which is why he accepts that bill, and which is why he can use that bill across the country to buy anything else worth $100. Overall, in this vastly complicated banking system, the one thing that underlies every transaction is trust. Alice and Bob and other people, they trust their banks. The banks come under central bank jurisdiction, which is to say that Alice and Bob and other people trust the central bank as a central intermediary for all financial transaction matters. If you think more about it, majority of the services which we are using or we use nowadays, in a way they ask us to trust a central counterparty or a central intermediary. For example, if we talk at a digital layer, we trust Google for serving us with accurate websites where we can get certain information from. We trust Facebook and Twitter with with regards to connecting and communicating with our friends. We trust Amazon for letting us serve our websites on their servers. And there are so many. If we extend it to the physical world, such as retail, we trust Target, more Tesco, and Walmart with the products these guys gather from small sellers across the globe to be sold to us. Now we don't trust these small sellers, or we might not trust these small sellers, but we do trust Walmart, and that's enough for us. Going a step further, we trust our government to make the facilities available for us with respect to basic health, basic education, and basic infrastructure in exchange for the taxes we pay. Now let's take a break for 5 seconds to think the extent of trust which we have towards most of the service provider we avail the services from, including the internet service provider, which I'm currently using right now. Going back to our financial example, let's imagine the ledger we talked about between Alice and Bob, and then with central and subsidiary bank. Let's assume that it is visible to everybody. When Alice gives $100 to Bob, everybody knows that this particular transaction it happened because everyone in the everybody involved in this sees the changes to the ledger. Now, if Bob comes back saying that he has not received the money, high probability will be that he is going to be proven wrong. By and that too very easily because everybody is has already seen that Bob has already gotten the money. So any change in the ledger is for everybody to see. That's the foundation, right? And anybody can see the nature of that change in the ledger, addition of cash, removal of cash, or the origin of the change, whether Bob did it or Alice did it. In this kind of arrangement, you do not need a bank or any central trusted intermediary. In fact, you do not need any intermediary at all. This is in nutshell and broadly what blockchain is. Blockchain is a decentralized transaction ledger, and the Bitcoin is first of its implementation, basically, of this technology. The paper by Satoshi Nakamoto, which introduced this technology, exemplifying it with its application to Bitcoin cryptocurrency, talks exactly about how transactions would be managed peer to peer, directly, and without going through a financial institution in between. I request you for your feedback and any question which you might have for me if you want me to address it in the next video. So next up, we will have talk about what Bitcoin is, how is that related to blockchain, how it works behind the scene, including the concept of transactions, wallets, block mining, Bitcoin addresses, and more. Stay tuned, guys. Thank you.